This sex trafficking case was very important to the Department of Justice and to me personally. It was important to the dedicated prosecutors in the Southern District of New York and to our FBI agents who investigated the case and were preparing it for trial. Most importantly, this case was important to the victims who had the courage to come forward and deserve the opportunity to confront the accused in the courtroom. The FBI and the Office of Inspector General are doing just that. We will get to the bottom of what happened, and there will be accountability.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we're going to take a look at the latest new Q posts. And in him, we have a lot of information to get through as Q reminds us to stay focused on investigating the connections between Ghislaine Maxwell, the Clintons, Disney, and Jeffrey Epstein, plus a whole lot more that we're going to get into here on the show. Plus, you guys are going to want to stick around because we're going to cover a bunch of other breaking news stories that the fake news liars will not tell you about. So stick around to hear that and a whole lot more. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I'm your host, Craig. You guys know I like to say thank you if you've hit that subscribe button. If you guys haven't done it, please come here to the landing page, click it. It makes a big difference, helps channel out big time, so I appreciate when you guys do that. And then don't forget to hit the bell and select all so you get notified as soon as every one of these videos get posted. And also a quick reminder that we do a segment at the end called God's Grace is Greater, and I'm inviting each and every one of you to stick around at the end of the episode where we talk about God's grace, and we're going to look at scripture today. And today we're going to talk about false doctrine and human greed in relation to what it means to fall into the trap of temptation. Very important lesson here, and I want to share it with you guys. So stick around at the end. We're going to talk about that, and I hope you guys do enjoy it. But before we get into that, we always pick up right where we left off. We left off at Q Post 4587, picking up at 4588. We have a lot of information to get through, so we're going to jump right into it. But before we get into that, I just want to quickly remind you guys this video is brought to you in part by Brave Browser. If you guys haven't tried this product out yet, you definitely need to give it a shot. It is an incredible browser, an internet browser, just like Chrome, Firefox, Safari, whatever you're using, but it's better. It blocks the ads. It's got a built-in private Tor browser and a bunch of other functionality that you guys are really going to enjoy. I use it myself, and did I mention it's 100% free? And all you have to do is use the link in the description to download it, and then you'll support this channel, and you'll get a great product in return for free. So go check out the Brave browser today. Use the link in the description to download, install it, and run it on your desktop, laptop, or smartphone. You can download it for free, so do it. And I know you guys are going to really enjoy this product. Now, we're going to pick up right where we left off. We left off at 4587. 4588 is where we're picking up. This tweet is where Q wants us to begin. And this tweet is quite disturbing, actually. It says, "You will never look at your childhood the same again." And it talks about dumping Disney. Now, I've talked about this on the show before. You guys all know. You've seen the videos and the explanations about the, satanic evil that Disney Corporation has been implanting into the heads of children for decades and decades. And it only has gotten worse as we've progressed further. And not only that, they've noticed very astutely that it is telling us exactly what's been happening behind the scenes. And they've hidden it in this children's tale. But it's not just a children's tale. It's really a story about how the world has been working for a very long time. So here, we'll read the actual clips that it wants us to read out of the book Pinocchio. You guys probably know this story. If you don't, it's about a little wooden boy who's kidnapped, basically, by an evil man who wants him to work in his salt mine, I guess. And then he turns little boys into donkeys. And it's really a strange story when you look at it as an adult now. But it says, "Meanwhile, Honest John and Gideon were in a tavern. A fat coachman was there too. Honest John bragged about how much money Stromboli had paid them for Pinocchio. Quote, 'I pay even more for small boys,' said the coachman. He showed them a sack full of gold." And then it says, "The coachman told Honest John his scheme. He brought boys to a place called Pleasure Island. He said no boys ever return, at least not as boys. Honest John decided to catch more small boys. Just then, Pinocchio and I were racing home to Geppetto. I ran very fast. I didn't see Honest John stop Pinocchio until it was too late. Okay, look, this is really indicative of a few different things, but I want to focus primarily on what Q wants us to look at here. Q says, do not give up the investigation, the citizen investigation, I should say. Public awareness important, bypass of controlled approved topics. General public steered by MSDNC like a dog steering sheep. Have faith in humanity, Q. So ultimately, I think what Q's obviously trying to tell us is that we have to continue the citizen investigation into these criminals, and we have to force the fake news liars to cover it, because every day that they're not putting this up as the first headline on all of their flagship shows is another day that these criminals are getting closer to being able to get away with their crimes. And when I say away with their crimes, we may be able to hold, a few of the kingpins responsible, even some of the people who I've heard, let's just say, have been taken down to Guantanamo Bay or other facilities and are, have already faced consequences. We may be able to get them, but ultimately, if we don't make this a major issue and we force these liars to cover it, then they'll win, because they'll just put more criminals in to replace the criminals from before. It'll just be a revolving door of sick depravity, and we have to stand up to it. So a lot of people I've seen in the comments, you guys go, what is it, man? One day you're saying that there's people and there's action taking place behind the scenes, and the next day you're saying that the other people, that the enemy is winning. Well, it's both. It really is both. You have the dichotomy of, you have actions taking place, you have federal agents, military, other organizations involved in helping with targeting and arresting these child sex traffickers and the criminals in the fake news who are being basically paid to lie on a regular basis. But at the same time, if you don't address the puppet masters, the top level, then you're never going to fix this problem. They talk about systemic racism. How about systemic child abuse and ritual sacrifice with our elite, so-called elite class? Put it in parentheses if you want. So, yeah, I think it's something we have to keep up. And here's a thread I thought was really interesting. I'm not going to go through the whole thread, but I'll leave a link to it if you want to read through it. It talks about the metaphor in Pinocchio, right? And how it actually is a metaphor for Epstein and the puppet master Geppetto, which is apparently Maxwell. And these are the main forces behind underage sex trafficking in this particular case. And the ensuing blackmail of participants in Epstein Island, of course, is the Treasure Island metaphor. So it goes through the etymology of the names first, saying Pinocchio is Italian for pine eye, which they've basically said is close to pineal, the pineal gland, which is where they harvest things like, I think it was the adrenochrome that they use for their sick fetish, drug-induced ritualism. But it goes on to talk about how the Disney movie lays it all out, about kidnapping vulnerable young boys, and this whole movie is literally about that. And then it talks about Podesta and walnut sauce and how that's actually a reference back to walnuts. And then it talks about here Geppetto and how it literally is a term that could be, it's found over here on Urban Dictionaries, meaning a pedophile, because it's a funny spin on the word where, which there's nothing funny about this, but that's what Urban Dictionary says. It says, based upon the story of Pinocchio, where Geppetto makes a little wooden boy and dances with him. But again, it goes on into puppets, strings, and masters, and who is really in charge. You guys can read through this if you want. It's pretty fascinating just to get glean a few things off of it and kind of decide for yourself. But I thought that was very interesting as I read through it, and that's just one example, right? The next post here, Q wants us to look at, and don't forget also one more thing though, the connection to Epstein and Little St. James Island. So Epstein's private island, where Maxwell was taking all of these children for them to abuse, is also just happens to be on the list of, these Disney shore excursions. Well, what do you know? Did you know that they have an excursion here called to Little St. James Island? No, yeah, no big deal. Just Disney Cruise Lines, you know, bringing kids out to Jeffrey Epstein's private pedo island right here, where you can go to Little St. James Island and snorkel with curious dartfish and in the clear blue water have an amazing time. This is really the level of sick depravity that we're dealing with. These people cover up their crimes and their connections by intertwining them all together, and then doing things like this, bringing a cruise ship of children out to the island so that, you know, if somebody sees kids out there, oh, that's just Captain Nautica's snorkeling expedition. Don't even think twice about it. Totally normal for Little St. James. Yeah. So that's just a few examples I wanted to give you there. I'll leave links to all of this in the description if you want to research more for yourself. The next post Q gives us, though, gives us a point back to a July 2nd post from this year where Q said, possible Epstein was a puppet, not the main person of interest, financed by who or what foreign entities. 1. Primary, gather, blackmail, and elected politicians, dignitaries, royalty, Hollywood influencers, Wall Street, and other financial top-level players, other high-profile industry-specific people, etc. 2. Feed an addiction, controllable, Maxwell family background, Robert Maxwell, history, intel agency, wealth, classify 1 through 99. Sometimes it's the people in the black background that are of greater significance. Q. Look, what more do you need to hear, right? What more do you need to see? We're getting all this information, we're putting it together, and Q is pointing us back to it, saying, do not give up on the citizen investigation. Keep digging, keep forcing the fake news to cover it, because they're not going to cover this. They've let this whole racist Black Lives Matter movement take over the headlines, and then it's COVID-19 with all these false positives where they're telling us that it's re-emerging, so they're going to have to shut down the economy again, put people out of business, strip people of their civil liberties, and then force a mail-in voting situation which can be easily or fraudulently abused by the criminals that we're trying to expose, that we've been exposing, that we've been putting cases together on for years now. And you guys go, oh, well, why don't we just arrest everyone? Well, first of all, there's national security. Second of all, Q told us that like 60% of this stuff might not even ever be able to be made public because it could start World War III. And third of all, look, this is up to us, we the people. It's our government. It's not up to them to tell us what to think and what to do. It's up to us to tell them what to do on our behalf. So kind of get that, you know, and take that for what it's worth. But yeah. And of course, in the next post here, Q gives us this link to Epstein was Pinocchio with Geppetto, Ghislaine pulling the strings. Now, this is from the New York Post. I'll read through the article real quick. It's pretty short. Saying Ghislaine Maxwell was far worse than Jeffrey Epstein when it came to abusing young women and girls, according to their most outspoken accuser. In fact, she was Geppetto to his Pinocchio. She was pulling the strings, Virginia Roberts Griff told CBS this morning of Maxwell on Thursday, calling Maxwell the mastermind and a monster. Ghislaine was much more conniving and smart than Epstein ever was, Jeffrey said. It says, I know that woman. I've known her really well. Put it this way. Epstein was Pinocchio. She was Geppetto. Jeffrey had still more choice words for Maxwell. She is a monster. She's worse than Epstein. She did things even worse than Epstein did. She was vicious. She was evil, and she's a woman. Jeffrey called Maxwell's arrest 2 weeks ago on charges that she recruited girls for Epstein, a moment that was momentous and just surreal. It was one of those life moments that I'll never forget. Also, Thursday it was revealed that Maxwell had secretly taken a husband in order to safeguard her fortune as prosecutors and lawsuits plaintiffs circled closer. That's how sick this person is. They go and get married to one of their other sick weirdo friends so that they can protect the money. And we're going to stick around to the end because we do a segment, God's Grace is Greater, and it's exactly what we're talking about today, about greed and exactly where that takes you. It takes you straight to hell. So that's what these people are getting involved with. But it says Maxwell's claimed romantic connection to Epstein himself was also a sham. Christina Oxenberg, a cousin to the British royal family and one-time pal of Maxwell, has said recently, Jeffrey has said in civil suits and interviews that she was recruited into Epstein's revolving roster of young slaves by Maxwell when she was 16 years old. She has accused Maxwell of ordering her to bed Prince Andrew 3 times when she was 17, a claim the prince has denied. Maxwell remains held without bail at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. So, you guys do with this what you will, but we have to keep the pressure up. We have to keep digging. We have to keep exposing these people, and we have to hold them accountable, because it's up to us. It's our republic. It's our government. This is our country. And that's really the ultimate, realization there, right? The next one here points to this. A New York Post headline: Shame of Thrones, when king and queen of perversion Ghislaine Maxwell and Kevin Spacey hung out in Buckingham Palace. So as you guys can see there, that is Ghislaine Maxwell and Kevin Spacey in Buckingham Palace, of all places. So where does this really connect back to? Who does this go up to? I think it goes back to Israel. I think it goes back to the Mossad. I think it goes back to intelligence agencies in the United States and intelligence agencies in Britain. And it was a way of blackmailing high-ranking individuals. As Q says, the primary purpose of all of this was to get blackmail, so you control people and feed their addictions. So then it points us to this Washington Examiner post talking about Kevin Spacey's accuser dying of suicide the day after he posted the "Kill Them with Kindness" video. You guys remember this, right? Back in December, Kevin Spacey put a video up on, I think it was like YouTube, one of the sites, Twitter, where he basically, was acting, like a conceited, vain, pompous, what, and saying, playing some character from some show I never even watched. Everybody says he was great in this House of Cards. I'm not watching anything with Kevin Spacey. Thank you very much. But he's doing this character, and he says, well, you just have to kill him with kindness. Oh, and then the very next day, of course, the person who was accusing him, right, the accuser who said he got groped under their table at the Nobel Peace Prize event in 2007, dies of suicide. So Q's pointing this together with the Maxwell connection to say this is their blackmail, this is their leverage, this is their network of criminal activities. These people think they're untouchable. They think that nobody's ever going to find out what they did, and they think that they can orchestrate this level of criminal activity without anyone noticing. But, fortunately for them, most people are asleep, so they don't wake up to it. Unfortunately for us, I should say. But it is what it is. We have to keep waking people up. We have to keep pointing to this kind of stuff, sharing these posts, sharing these connections, making the fake news cover it, because they're just going to keep lying. They're going to keep taking lies and weaponizing them against the American people to try to destroy this country, because they are criminally aligned with a movement that is hell-bent on destroying the United States of America as it stands today. And we're going to talk about exactly what that movement has been up to lately. You guys probably will know exactly what I'm referring to. Q points us to the part here where it says, quote, "This marks the third Spacey accuser to die in 2019. At what point does it become painfully obvious, Q?" So all these accusers come out against Kevin Spacey, and all of a sudden, they all just start magically dying. Yeah, I'm sure it's nothing. I'm sure it's just all a big coincidence. I'm sure all of them just felt really bad for making fake accusations against Kevin Spacey and just have decided to end their own lives. Now, if you couldn't tell, I was being sarcastic, because that is not what I believe happened, but it is still open for debate, and we have to keep investigating, keep the pressure on these criminals. Don't let them get away with this. That's what we have to have as our mantra. The next post here that Q wants us to look at is, of course, this Breitbart article talking about Connecticut satanic desecration marks 11th attack on Christian church. Folks, I'm trying to tell you, they're coming after Christians, and it's disturbing. But it is something that we should have expected. The Bible tells us that this is exactly how it will be, that those who stand in opposition to Christ, in opposition to God, will make themselves known, and they will come after us. But we have to stand, and we have to stand and face them. And that's really what this is about. You can read through this story about how this St. Joseph's Church was vandalized as an unknown individual, and individuals painted satanic and anarchist symbols on its doors. This is a movement driven by the devil. And I, have to just say it how it is. That is what we're up against here. We are up against pure evil, but remember, in the end, God wins. So Q wants us to see that and says 5-5. Q, these people worship Satan. They're the true embodiment of evil on earth. And in the next post, Q says, when was the last time you witnessed Democrat Party leader being patriotic, exhibiting national pride, love of country? When was the last time you witnessed a Democrat Party leader speak out against the riots, violence in the streets, MSDNC projecting peaceful protests? When was the last time you witnessed a Democrat Party leader support those who took at oath to protect and defend? When was the last time you witnessed a Democrat Party leader support and call for unity across our nation? Why do they want people divided? Why do they want people categorized? Who controls the Democrat Party leaders? Foreign, the great deceivers, with the D in the metaphorical kill box there. Q. So, hey, everything Q just said here is 100% true. I haven't seen any person from the Democrat Party stand up and say, America's a great country. Washington was a great founding father. I'm thankful for Abraham Lincoln and all he did. All I hear is, yeah, well, they're just spraying graffiti. Huh. Why are you sending police in to get people who are spraying graffiti and peaceful protesting? Well, they're not peaceful protesting. Tonight in Portland, almost as I'm making this video, they are literally burning down the police union's offices there. In Portland, they're literally destroying piece by piece, brick by brick, using hammers, bats, and every other kind of blunt object you could imagine, paintball guns even in some cases and other things, to deface and destroy federal courthouses. And they just say, oh, it's peaceful protests. Dude, don't do anything to the peaceful protesters. It's because it's all a psyop. It is all to condone and make acceptable this level of violent anarchism, which is the only way they're going to get away with the crimes that they've committed. I've already said the reason why they have to defund the police and the reason why they want to get rid of law and order in this country is because they've broken so many crimes now. They've realized they don't have any other choice. They either get rid of the police, who are going to be arresting them and throwing them in federal prison for probably the rest of their lives, or they're going to suffer at the hands of those police. So, hey, it is what it is. I just thought I'd mention that here. And the projecting of peaceful protesters, these people should be ashamed of themselves, but that would require them to have an ounce of self-awareness and or humility or anything. But unfortunately, most of the people in the fake news are vain, narcissistic sociopaths who get on TV and lie every single night, and or are ignorant, naive morons who live in such a small bubble out in Beverly Hills, or out in the Hamptons, or out in some rich high-end DC gated community, that they don't know what's happening in the real world. They live in a literal vacuum, and they just can't fathom how your opinions even exist. And they look at you as sheep. You don't know what's best for you. They know what's best for you, and they're going to tell you what to think. You can't think for yourself. You are meant to be controlled. That's the way they view you. So going into the next post here, Q gives us this Twitter post to look at, where it actually, you can hear this. It's a speech being given over in Germany, where they end the speech. The speaker actually says, where we go one, we go all. And they said they had goosebumps when they heard that, which, yeah, this movement's global because people all around the globe can agree on the fact that we want law, we want justice, we want criminals who abuse children to be held accountable. We don't want criminals acting, secretly to affect these satanic evil outcomes in society, social engineering with satanic programming, all of it. We agree globally that we want peace. We don't want to go into perpetual wars that never end. There are going to be those who stand in opposition to that. There are going to be those who don't want that. But at the end of the day, the vast majority of the people in this world want the same thing. And that's what is really, connective about this movement. And Q says, when the news is no longer trustworthy, it's up to us, to each of us, to use discernment, have faith and trust in yourself. Unity, not division. Where we go on, we go all. Q. Yeah. I agree with that 100%. So a few more stories I want to get into before we go. Here's Antifa thugs being snatched off Portland streets and thrown into unmarked vans. And for me, look, there's two sides of this. There's the argument that says, do we really want secret police out in the streets doing this kind of work? And is that constitutional? And then there's the other side that says these people are domestic terrorists who need to be held accountable and they need to be taken off the streets. And if the police, the local police won't do it and the state police won't do it, then the federal police have to do it. So what I think this is that the unmarked police or whatever that they're talking about in unmarked vans are really just federal officers who are enforcing federal law. You can't tear down federal statutes. You can't take baseball bats and spray graffiti all over federal courthouses and make it completely unsafe to use and block them off and shut them down. That is domestic terrorism. That is a criminal insurrection, and President Trump has every right and authority to have the police in these states, the federal police, picking up these criminal protesters. And who in the world is saying it's a good thing that violent, racist mobs are destroying entire cities and holding police precincts hostage? I mean, in what world is that a good thing, right? But the Attorney General of Oregon, of course, is suing Homeland Security over the arrest of the Antifa rioters. Well, good luck to you. I hope they all get thrown in jail, including the Attorney General, for allowing this to happen in the first place. It's their fault. It's their failure of government that has caused the federal government to have to step in and intercede. So it's people like this woman right here who is to blame. So you can blame Oregon Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum specifically for the problems that have been taking place in her state, because she's the one who's failing to act, and it's her responsibility to fix this. But President Trump's going to do it because he said he would. And what is this whole group about, right? What are they about? Their literal mission statement is the abolition of the United States as we know it. And then you go, oh, well, no, they're just peaceful protesters. They want to destroy this country, and they say it openly. And you have people like this, and I don't know this priest, he may just be a useful idiot, but he's nodding in agreement and with the mob, and they're all like, this is great, this is awesome, let's destroy the United States. Who are these people? If you hate this country so much, my advice to you is get on a plane and leave it. Go as far away as you can, search every country in the world, and tell me this is not the best country in the world. And if you can't do that, well, I don't know, So in the next one here, Facebook deplatforming its former employee just for questioning the BLM diversity narrative. This is the kind of thought control. This is the kind of Orwellian nightmare dystopia that we are entering, where big tech companies are deplatforming individuals for having one bad opinion. Your entire life, if you have an entire digital identity, they can erase it overnight because you said one thing that they didn't like. And they call us fascists? They call us Nazis? These people are psychotic, fascist Nazis. That's the whole idea. They call you exactly what they are. It's a great deception, really. Here's another story. Joe Biden's now receiving intelligence briefings. I think it's like one of those things that kids gets where, you pull the handle down and it spins a little thing in the middle, a little arrow in the middle, and then it like stops. It goes, the cow goes moo. Except in Joe Biden's case, they like hand it to him and he like pulls the thing and it like spins around and then the arrow stops on like a Russian. And it's like, the Russian agent says Donald Trump did crime in Russia. We have blackmail. Like, that's how I imagine his intelligence briefings are going. So I just thought that was interesting. Now, more specifically, a topic to me that affects me and everyone out here in California. You guys know I live out in California. Governor Newsom now has banned all in-home Bible fellowship, church services, meetings, singings, and church gatherings. This is communist, man. This is communist China. This is exactly what they did. I mean, we have to stand up to this. Don't follow these unconstitutional orders. Stand up to criminals, thugs like Gavin Newsom, and tell them that they can take their bans and they can put them right up where the sun don't shine, because we will never allow this government to restrict our right to worship our God. That is something that will never happen. If they want to come throw us all in jail, they could start with me. Put me in jail, because I will never stop. I will worship God every day from here until the day I'm dead and reunited with God in heaven in Christ, because that's what America fought is all about. That's what we fought and died for. That's what generations before us did, to give us the liberty and freedom to do that. And I won't have him take it away, because it is exactly like what happens in China. This is what happens in China. China forces its citizens to literally, before they get their welfare checks, to say that they denounce their faith in Christ. And this is where this kind of attitude ends. This is where Gavin Newsom, that satanic demon, wants to take us. He wants to get us to the point where, we have to beg him for a welfare check, and he'll say, I'm not giving you your welfare check till you tell me that Jesus is not your savior. And you know what? On that day, I will renounce Gavin Newsom, and I will spit on the check, and I will walk away, and I will gladly face any punishment that comes with it, because I know my reward is greater, the reward that's in heaven. So there, and then also Mary Trump. It's so stupid. These people are idiots, including this moron. Writes an entire book that's like literally just a bunch of hearsay, and makes it's a whiny little petulant child who's mad that she got cut out of her granddaddy's inheritance. That's what Mary Trump is. And now she's writing a book because the criminals who hate Trump said, oh, we'll give you millions of dollars to do it. And she's like, oh, I can make up lies. So that's what that is. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. A few more things before we go. Remember to come here, watch these videos, and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to think about all of this. Also, you can find me over here on Twitter at JustInformYou, and I'm on Twitter at informed_news. Plus, you can find me over at Parler at JustInformedTalk, and BitChute.com/JustInformedTalk is the backup channel. And I also have the official website for Just Informed Talk, JustInformedNews.com. And also, if you guys want to help keep this channel up and running, your support keeps it going. I couldn't do this without you. They've demonetized me off YouTube, and they've tried to put this channel out of business. So your support over here helps on Patreon, the crowdfunding website, patreon.com/justinformedtalk. It's a monthly donation. Set it and forget it. Know you're helping create content on this channel. I also have a GoFundMe set up. If you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation, links to everything we've talked about today will be in the description below. So, before we go, we do a segment called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. And today, I have a very special message I want to share with you. And talking about all these corrupt criminals and all these dark things, this evil that surrounds us, we have to remind ourselves about that false doctrine that surrounds us and the human greed and where that takes you, where that path takes you. And it tells us right here in 1 Timothy, we're going to read about false doctrine and human greed, and it applies to exactly these people who we talk about every day, who have chosen the dark path, who have chosen to go against God. This is what it is right here. So this is chapter 6, verses, verse 3 through 10. And it says, teach and encourage these things. If anyone teaches other doctrine and does not agree with the sound teaching of our Lord Jesus Christ and with the teaching that promotes godliness, he is conceited, understanding nothing, but having a sick interest in disputes and arguments over words. From these come envy, quarreling, slanders, evil suspicions, and constant disagreement among men whose minds are depraved and deprived of the truth, who imagine that godliness is a way to material gain, but godliness with contentment is a great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and we can take nothing out. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with these. But those who want to be rich fall into temptation, a trap, and many foolish and harmful desires, which plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, and by craving it, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pains. Wow. Yeah. I mean, look, ultimately, we are taught by the Word of God to understand that if we have food and clothes, that's all we need. As long as we can, get up every day and take care of ourselves, we don't need riches. Now, if God blesses us with more and gives us abundance, then we are to take that and we are to thank God and say, how can we use it to honor you, Lord? That's what we're called to do, not to take it and go do these evil things out in the world, as it says here, to go out and have a sick interest in disputes and arguments over words, and to engage in things like envy, quarreling, slanders, evil suspicions, and constant disagreement. No. What we're supposed to do is we are supposed to take the doctrine of Jesus Christ and live a godly life. And that's my message to each and every one of you. I hope you guys understand that. I hope you guys take this message and share it with your family, friends, and loved ones, and let them know that they are loved and that they have a Savior in heaven. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Another thing, come here, click the subscribe button. Also, don't forget, hit it, punch it, tab it, whatever. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. That's it for me. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.